So windows are the eyes of a building, and this is especially true of historical buildings, and truer again of Irish historical buildings, because they depend so very much so on the window placement, proportion, and detailing for their architectural effect on what are relatively plain and unassuming classical elevations. And really this is part of our architectural heritage that is completely ignored, and the damage that you can see on every streetscape right across the country is just a testament to that. Because just like the human face, if the eye is disfigured, if it's concealed, or if it's actually taken out completely, the ability to read that facade is vastly diminished, and its integrity is very much compromised. And windows can tell us so much about a building. They tell us when it was built, it tells us about the owner, about their status, about their wealth, about their aspirations, and it tells us about the technological advances and the craftsmanship of a particular period. Now, windows in Ireland were dominated for over 2.5 centuries by the sliding sash, which came to Ireland in about 1680 or so. This is one of the earliest examples. Trinity's own old library dates from about 1717 or so. And you can see early sash windows with enormously thick, chunky glazing bars with very small little panes of glass. And the whole kind of gridded Georgian sash window came about because the only way you could make good quality glass right up until the early 19th century was for a glass blower to spin a large disc, which is called crown glass, very thin round discs of glass. And Trinity College's own west front facing onto College Green, that grand public face of the college, has a magnificent array, 89 windows dating from the mid-18th century of very good 18th century craftsmanship. And you can see the amazing difference a lick of paint makes. They've all been painted for the first time in about 20 years. And you can see the classical grid and the format of that just leaps off the facade once it's much more clearly articulated. But the real glory of the west front is the amount of original crown glass which survives that elevation from about 1758 or so. And you've got those wonderful distinctive swirls of circular crown glass that you only get from hand-blown glass, and it's wafer thin. You can literally put your finger through it, so it's amazing the amount of glass that originally that survived. And one of the glories of Dublin is on the late summer's evening when the sun pierces down Dame Street, through College Green, through the windows, and it bounces these marvellous patterns of crown glass on the opposing wall of the Regent House staircase. But by the late 18th century, window manufacture had reached such a refined level that the glazing bars almost disappeared completely, an incredible quality level of craftsmanship. And you can see each pane also becomes rectangular, so it reflects the shape of the window, and the window reflects the facade of the house as well. By the early 19th century, a new form of glass came about called cylinder glass, which is when a large disc or a large cylinder was blown. You could cut it down the middle, they opened it out, and they flattened it down on a tabletop. So you get this wonderful battered appearance to early 19th century glass, which is very distinctive. And in Britain, the opportunity was used to make larger panes of glass, but in Ireland, we stuck with the Georgian format for much longer. And it wasn't until when the duty on glass was abolished in the 1840s that finally we got the larger 2/2 sash window with all of the social connotations that came with that. Your status was very much improved when you had a 2/2 sash window. And then by the 1860s, manufacturing developed a little further, and we got the 1/1 sash window for the very first time. But of course, these were prohibitively expensive, so the fashionable just replaced their windows on the drawing room level of the first floor, and they popped these horribly vacuous windows in place of the original Georgian classical grid. This is a very windows can tell us a story as well. This is a very typical Irish scene. A developer, he builds 2 houses, he lives in one, he rents the other, and we can tell very clearly which house he lived in with the 2/2 sash windows. But unfortunately, thanks to the ravages of the Celtic tiger, a few months later, our story has now been lost. Not only has it been lost, but it's also distorted, because now the other house is 1/1 sash windows or plastic windows in place of the original. So you can see the damage that the replacement of these windows causes. It's a very typical Irish scene, 2 very grand Edwardian houses, completely butchered by mass-produced, crass, ignorant, horribly detailed plastic windows with their projecting little lights. Luckily, in this case, these 2 buildings were protected. The conservation officer got onto them and forced that all the original windows go back in. And you can see the incredible difference that the reinstatement of the original profiles and details make. Finally, windows can tell us a story as well. I'm going to have to talk very quickly now, because at Trinity College, again in the chapel a few months ago, in there with Eddie McParland, we noticed graffiti very high up, literally 2 stories up in the window. And we found Pat O'Killiam, painter and glazier from Galway Town, 1822. And then, "O you country spalpeen, bad luck to you, Ruth G, the 3rd of October 1889. So Irish begrudgery alive and well. Obviously, he was dead by that stage. So thank you very much.